All right, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're going to connect the dots between a loud party, the music playing in your local supermarket, and a billion-dollar startup. It's all part of one big journey into making way smarter decisions, starting right inside your own head and ending at the heart of your business.
You know, this really feels like the big question of our time, doesn't it? We are just swimming in a sea of information, notifications, endless choices. So how in the world do you find the signal in all of that noise? Well, the answer, as we're about to see, is really a journey. It's a journey that starts super small, like inside your own mind, and then scales all the way up to the strategies that build incredible companies. We're going to go from the micro to the macro. So let's start with the most powerful and, let's be honest, complicated tool you own, your brain. We're going to take a look at its amazing and, yeah, sometimes pretty flawed filtering system. The fancy term for this is attention allocation. It's basically how your brain decides what gets through the gate and what gets blocked out. You've experienced this a million times. Just think about being at a really loud party. Somehow you can tune out all that background chaos and just focus on one single conversation. That's the cocktail party effect, and it is your brain's filtering mechanism in action. Pretty cool, right? So what actually gets past that filter? Well, our brains are kind of wired to prioritize a few things. Loud sounds, bright lights, those always cut through the noise. But so do things we're personally invested in. You know, hearing your own name from across the room or seeing your favorite team's logo. And there's also a sweet spot for tasks. It can't be too easy or you get bored, and it can't be too hard or you get frustrated. And maybe the most relatable one, when you're tired or stressed, forget it. That filter just completely falls apart. But here's the good news. That filter isn't set in stone. You can actually train it. The key is just being intentional. You can literally design your environment to get rid of distractions. Turn off those notifications. You can also practice mindfulness to strengthen that focus muscle. And you can set tiny, clear micro goals to give your brain a constant target so it doesn't wander off. Okay, so once you start to get a handle on your own attention, the very next step is to understand your customers. How do these exact same principles apply to how they behave? And this is just a brilliant example of a subtle but super powerful tool, music. Slow, chill music makes shoppers relax, they move slower, they stay in the store longer, which, surprise, surprise, often leads to them buying more. Fast music does the exact opposite. It gets people energized and moving quickly, perfect for fast transactions. There was this famous study, right? A supermarket played French music, and sales of French wine shot through the roof. Then they switched to German music, and suddenly German wine sales soared. Our brains are making these connections without us even realizing it. Influencing behavior is one thing, but look, if you can't measure it, you're just guessing. So how do you actually move from a hunch to hard data? This is exactly where modern analytics tools come in. The key is to use custom reports. Instead of just drowning in all of the default data that gets thrown at you, you can build your own dashboard that shows you the exact metrics you need to understand what your customers are doing. So, for example, let's say you want to know if your latest sale ad is actually working. You can build a super simple report. You'd track the ad source, measure the clicks and the conversion rate, and then you'd filter it for just that one ad. And bam, instantly you have clear data that tells you whether to put more money behind that ad or, try something new. No more guessing. Right, so once you're measuring behavior, you can start testing strategies to actively influence it on a much bigger scale. This is where we get into what's called smarter growth. A classic growth strategy is product bundling. On the one hand, it's a fantastic way to increase the total value of a sale and maybe clear out some old inventory. But it's a really careful balancing act. If you push a bundle that feels forced, you risk just plain annoying your customers. The question you always have to ask is, does this bundle actually provide real value, or is it just a gimmick? So how do you know if a strategy is actually going to work? You stop guessing and you start testing. A/B testing is a beautifully simple but incredibly powerful method. You create two versions of something, show them to different groups of people, and just let the data tell you which one is the winner. It's basically the scientific method for business. But, and this is important, there is one absolute golden rule here. If you change the headline and the button color at the same time, you have absolutely no idea which change actually made the difference. So to get clean results, you have to follow the mantra, one test, one variable, always. And this brings us to our final section, putting all of this together into a mindset. It's all about building a system for continuous learning and adaptation. This right here is the core loop of the lean startup idea. Build, measure, learn. you build the smallest, simplest possible version of your idea. That's an MVP. Then, you measure how real people actually use it. And finally, you learn from that data to decide what to do next. Instagram famously started as a location check-in app, but they measured user data and learned people were obsessed with the photo filters. So they pivoted, and, well, the rest is history.
But measuring isn't just about collecting data. It's about collecting the right data. Actionable metrics, like customer retention rate, are like the vital signs of your business. They tell you if you're actually healthy. Vanity metrics, on the other hand, things like social media likes, they're like candy. They give you a quick sugar rush and make you feel good, but they offer zero real nourishment for your strategy. So far, we've mostly looked at single variables, right? Like testing one button color. But in the real world, a ton of factors are at play all at once. How does your ad budget affect sales compared to your product's price? When you need to see how all these different levers work together, you need a more advanced tool. And this is what that looks like in practice. It's a way of isolating all these different factors to see their true impact. This table tells a fascinating story. It shows that for every dollar you spend on ads, you bring in about 80 cents. But for every dollar you raise the price, you lose 50 cents. This kind of analysis stops you from flying blind and shows you exactly which levers have the biggest impact on your goals. So there you have it. The journey to making smarter decisions really does start with mastering your own focus. From there, you learn to decode your customers' behavior, you test your strategies systematically, and ultimately, you build an entire business around this continuous loop of learning from data. We've gone from the inner workings of our own attention all the way to the core data that fuels business growth. You've officially seen the toolkit. So the only question left is, which mystery are you going to solve first?